What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Real Estate Served on the Rocks, powered by Living in Colorado, the Mile High Perspective, and Fathom Realty on YouTube. As always, my name is Charlie Sardelli, and I'm here with
Jameson Amaros.
Oscar Ibarra.
And we are back, baby. We are back. Sorry about the little hiatus, but we got to get some traveling in before the summer comes to an end, right?
It's true. It's true. I was in Austin.
And then
Then where else? No,
Vegas.
Oh yeah, I was in Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah, Austin. I was in Houston, Atlanta, Vegas. I was in Austin.
Houston,
Austin,
Atlanta, Vegas.
Houston, Atlanta, Vegas.
Right.
I'll tell you what, man.
I was nowhere. I was here. I was working.
I was
Bullshit.
also working in Austin. My streak ended though, so I've had this thing where every time I've gone on vacation, I've gotten something under contract. Nice. I was close when I was in Austin, but it ended up falling through. But I'll tell you what, I love that city.
Yeah.
For two reasons. Number one, the food.
Okay.
Like if you go to Austin, so one of the big complaints about Denver is that it's all chain restaurants. Like there's not a lot of mom and pop.
That's understandable.
You know
especially
what I mean?
after
Like
the pandemic.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's all like you got like Castle Rock, right? We got Buffalo Wild Wings, and we have In-N-Out, and we have La Loma, which is kind of a chain, and we've got all these different Los Dos Portillos coming out. Good restaurants, all chains. Austin, dude, it's just mom and pop barbecue, mom and pop Hispanic food. We went to this diner the last day we were there.
Yeah.
It was
You got to watch out talking about diners, man. I'm from
No,
from
bro.
the
So
Northeast,
this is how you knew it was good, though. Okay, you go down the street, and it's a Texaco attached to a diner, and shares a wall with a Cricket Wireless. And
There you
you
go.
walk in there, dude. This like stuffed chili relleno was the size of my head. I had smoked brisket breakfast burrito that was
Nice.
like, I mean, dude,
Nice.
it's just the food everywhere
Well, I
you
mean,
go.
I just saw something that Austin is in the top. I think it's top 3, if not first, of population growth.
Yeah.
Because everybody's flooding there.
Yeah,
and
it's the
obviously-
food there though is great, and downtown Rainy Street so sick.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just a cool spot.
I
So,
didn't
go to
I didn't-
10 out of
Buc-ee's?
10 recommend. No, we did not.
I did
go to
not go
Buc-ee's. I
to
know.
somewhere as nice. I went to Mooresville, North Carolina.
So where?
Mooresville, North Carolina.
Moreville, North Carolina.
North
North
Carolina.
Carolina.
now.
Ring, ding, ding, ding,
But
ding, ding.
it was for a good cause. Surprised my grandma for her 80th birthday. Like she had no idea we were
Nice.
going to be there. And then she walked into the restaurant, saw me and my girlfriend sitting there, and just obviously broke down. So worth it trip. But I also got some home photography out of it too.
Nice.
Shout out Heather, thank you very much.
Oscar, where'd you go?
Absolutely. Crazy is where I went. I went fucking crazy.
I went to Crazy Town.
I went crazy town and back. I'm still
Oh man, but hey,
jet lagged from it.
I mean, when we finished last week's podcast, we were kind of going through some different terms and stuff like that. Or excuse me, the last podcast, we were going through terms and we got to HOA.
We did.
And if you guys remember, if you listened, we kind of were like, yeah, that's way too much to talk
That's
about.
one acronym that's like,
Yeah.
ugh.
Yeah. So today's episode, we are going to break down HOA, kind of what it is, how it works, and as a home buyer, what you need to look for and what you need to be aware of when it comes to HOAs, and just kind of what to keep your eye out for, right? So we have a couple questions that are frequently asked questions that we want to kind of go through for you guys. But as always, on this podcast, we not only talk about real estate, we drink bourbon, right?
We do.
And this week's bourbon is I think one of the most special that we've had on the show because it comes straight from Colorado. And on today's bourbon that we're trying is called the Whiskey Cartel. They are relatively new to the market, came out in 2020, but this bottle is really cool because this is actually a company owned by the Polizzi family out here. So they actually have a ranch.
Ties to the cartel.
Yeah, right. Makes sense.
The Italian mafia.
It makes sense, right? But how I found these guys was I was at an event a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, Charlie met these guys.
Yeah. The owners
Personally met
and-
them.
Yeah, and they're down to earth. They're really cool people. But I met
Yeah,
them
until
at
you get, find yourself in the Hudson with cement.
Where's
cement
Charlie?
shoes?
right. I don't know. Our families might have to clash because I still got some pull back in
Oh, yeah,
back in New
you're
York,
Italian
right?
too.
But I met them at a cornhole tournament. They were a vendor there. Started talking to him, said, hey, we got a podcast and we do whiskey reviews. And he was like, oh, you should try ours. So what we're drinking today is the Whiskey Cartel's executive batch. So this is actually something that they did after they started the company. They started the company in 2020, like I said, but they actually started with flavored bourbon. So they have banana, raspberry, strawberry. They're introducing a peach here soon.
That's what they stepped into the industry with, flavored.
Yep. The flavored stuff. But the cool thing about the flavored is they actually use, instead of just making, a 3-year bourbon and then kind of adding the flavor to it, they use a premium bourbon.
Right.
And what we're drinking today, the executive, that is their kind of their intro bourbon to, hey, this is we're coming in hot. It's 100 proof, right? But when I tasted this at the event, it blew me away, and I was so excited to bring it for you guys. And I think I texted you like immediately after. I was like, guys, look what I got.
Yep.
Because honestly, for a company that really, only started in 2020, what they've done with the bourbon is phenomenal, and at least from what I think. And I'm excited to have you guys kind of review it as well. But the cool thing is, this also has an American startup story. So John Polizzi, his family came into New York, and they split. Half went to Chicago, half came out here to Colorado. And when they got to Colorado, instead of doing the Chicago thing and going with the mafia, they said, yeah, we don't really want too much part of that. We're going to start growing cattle and have a ranch. So they started doing that. So their family's been established here for generations. And John, the owner of this company, started doing his own bourbon 15 years ago. So before even
in
2020.
Chicago?
No, in Colorado.
Oh, here.
Yeah. So he actually started doing this himself, and he would make it and then give it out to friends in mason jars. And it was kind of just a hobby for him. And they decided to come to market because throughout the pandemic.
Kind of sounds like whiskey running.
Yeah, right.
Which is what the Chicago Mafia did during Prohibition. So
They got
story checks out.
Little foot in
Story
the game,
checks
right?
out. Is it moonshine? No, it's bourbon.
Yes. Well, and that's the cool thing is they started putting it in mason jars just to give it out to friends. And obviously throughout the pandemic, they had more than they needed. So they kept giving it out, and they kept getting the feedback. You guys have to come to market. Like, this is phenomenal. You got to do it. So this
Why
is
didn't
the
we meet
product.
these people?
I know,
They're
right?
just giving away bourbon.
Yeah.
Come on.
Drunk group of friends.
Yeah.
I'll take some bourbon.
Met with them, and they're great people. And we always talk about stories and how they pertain to the bourbon, but I really love their tagline. So the company's name is the Whiskey Cartel, right? And it's basically like, become part of the family, welcome to the cartel. And that's the whole thing with this bourbon is they want everybody to be included in it, and that's why they brought it to market. I mean, just for me, being the New York Italian that I am, I think the label is dope. It's kind of got an Oppenheimer feel.
I also feel like it's like a become part of the family, welcome to their cartel.
Yeah.
By the way, if you ever want to leave, we'll fucking kill you.
Yeah, you can't drink any more bourbon.
We'll see.
It has a great Gatsby kind of feel in the front.
Exactly. And they're kind of just going for that real kind of backroom kind of feel with it, like speakeasy kind of feel. And I'm excited for you guys to try it because I think that it surprised me for sure. But as we pour it out, always got to get JC's glass. And like we said, we're already a year over, and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him and his ability to bring people together and love for bourbon. So,
much like the cartel, which he also had ties to in Sinaloa. So there you go.
Perfect,
Works out.
perfect.
Full circle, baby.
Let's go ahead. Cheers it up, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers. So
100 proof, right?
100 proof, yep.
And, 5 year?
Yep, 5-year age.
Did we get any notes?
So it does come forward with a lot of caramel notes, that vanilla note.
Yeah.
It is a little sweet forward, and you guys will notice for 100 proof, that burn on the nose is very, very light.
Minimal.
Very
Definitely,
sweet.
you get the spices. So a lot of that,
Yeah.
a lot, the cardamom with the sweetness. I mean, the clarity of it as well. We always talk about particulates in it. There's not literally anything floating in this. What's really
It's
cool.
got a really nice amber color.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what's really cool about it is one thing that they do is they want to keep it as true to true bourbon as possible. But one thing that they do to enhance it at the end is they add in towards the end of the distilling process a little bit of caramel. So it is a little sweeter on the front end, but for me it was the complexity that kind of grabbed me out after I took that sip. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that first.
And you know
sip in.
what? Caramel lends itself to that because it is burnt, right?
Yeah.
That's how you make caramel. So charred barrels or whatever they age it in, I
Yep.
think it kind of meshes well.
Well,
Yeah.
now I also want to know how long they charred the barrels because now we know.
Yes.
It's either 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 40 seconds, or the magic 45 seconds.
Well, here's actually the cool thing for everybody that lives in Colorado. They actually just acquired a DSP out here in Castle Rock, actually in the last week. So they want to invite people in to teach them about bourbon, teach how it's made and all the difference differences between them.
So I got a buddy of mine. I haven't talked to him in a while. His name's Noah, but I knew him in college, and he has made his entire career is purchasing and selling and distributing aged barrels.
Nice.
And he was, I don't know where he's at. He's probably way higher in the company now, but his job was to go to different countries and go hand choose barrels to then
How do you
bring
get
them
that
back.
job?
I know.
legit.
I know. But I wonder if I'll try and reconnect with him, just see if he wants to come on, because there's a whole other science.
Yeah.
Like we talk about the science of distilling bourbon.
Yes.
There's an entire world about just the barrels themselves.
I mean, think
and
about
that's
how
what
many different kinds of woods there are.
Yeah, that's one.
Because
That's what his job was.
not
So
all
he would go
distillers
to
burn their own barrels.
correct. Yeah,
Very
so
few.
he would go
Jack Daniel's one of the few.
across
Yeah.
the world and be like, oh yeah, this week I'm in Germany, and this week I'm in Scandinavia, and this week I'm in Russia. And
Where does he live now?
he lives in Colorado.
We need to try and get
I
him
know,
on, dude.
but
would be
that's
awesome.
that is what he used to do. I think
It took you a year,
I know.
a whole year. Come on.
Yeah.
Like, man, I wish we had the perfect guest.
I know. It's like, do we know anybody that doesn't bourbon stuff?
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and.
All
get
right,
the first
Noah,
sipping,
you're
guys.
probably not watching this, but I'm gonna connect with you, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. See that. A lot of the time with bourbons, especially when they're 100 proof, you get the ethanol first. But I think what this one does really well is the spices are forward over the burn from the alcohol, so they
Yeah.
almost mix together.
Yeah, I was gonna say what I get is I get the burn on the tongue that lingers, but I get the flavor over top of it.
Yes.
So like you can tell it's higher ABV, but you get that sweetness that kind of rolls over it and washes it away. I would call, much like the cartels, this is dangerous
Yeah.
for 100 proof.
It drinks. I tend to keep it in my mouth for a little bit and see what it does, and it drinks and feels very much so like real maple syrup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It hits it sweet that way, not that Jemima stuff, like the real maple
Yes.
syrup.
Yep.
That has
it's
a little
not
bit of a bite to it.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
super sweet, but it's sweet and
Yes.
subtle. That's kind of what it emulates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing for me that really got me was like we talked about being 100 proof. We've had 100 proofs that hit the tongue and you go, you kind of rear back. But this one, like Jameson said, the fact that this is dangerous is because it's easy.
Right.
And then you still get the burn on the tongue and it stays, but it's more enhancing the flavor. Like
This is 80 proof easy.
yeah.
Well, right. So what Oscar said, right? That he likes to. I'm gonna word this differently.
You get another
Just trying to feel like creamy mouth.
saucy mouth or
He
what
likes
was it?
Creamy mouth.
Yeah. He likes to hold the taste in before There's not a good way to say it. Fuck it. Anyway,
that's why I
the
didn't
point
even
is-
try.
The point
I
is,
like to keep it in my mouth. That's
how
it.
many
Whatever.
100 proof bourbons can you really do that with
Yeah.
and feel comfortable? Like after a little bit, the burn starts to overpower,
Yep.
and you have to ingest it.
Well,
Exactly.
and then another thing with 100 plus proof, don't inhale through your mouth.
Right.
You
Yeah.
will cough.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And this one, and you get into the habit of just to keep the flavor, but this one's smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like it.
Definitely, like again, just upfront, guys. This bottle is definitely one to kind of seek out. And
Where can you get it?
So you can honestly, there's a couple places around Castle Rock that have it right now.
Okay.
You can order it off of their website, thewhiskeycartel.com. That's honestly the best way for you to do it right now because they are growing. And if you guys do try it out and you like it, let them know because they're looking to expand.
Shit.
They told me that they're looking to go overseas even with it. So they're gearing up. They got a lot coming down the pipeline. Like I said, they got a peach flavor coming out, and I'm excited to see where they go from here.
I forgot to call you while you were in Austin. I was going to ask if you could bring me back a bottle of Eleanor bourbon. You can't. They don't ship.
Oh wow,
It's in Austin. only.
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah. I've heard of it before. I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I did see. I guess this is my third.
Because my
favorite
daughter's
piece
name's
of Austin.
Eleanor. That's why. And they have a bourbon
Yeah.
down there.
You always forget, right? You know this because you're from back east. every time I go to like the Midwest or the East Coast and I go shop for alcohol, I always forget I have to go to 2 different places.
Yep.
Because one's wine and beer only. And I'm like, why the fuck is there no whiskey? And then
You
that
walk
was-
in, you're like,
Yeah.
God damn it, where's the Yingling or whatever the hell, old,
Yeah,
old
exactly,
style.
right?
Might as well
But-
drink some beer. I can't get back home.
in the same parking lot as this diner that was fantastic was that Texaco sells liquor. And one of the things they had was 1.75s of Weller Special Reserve for $49
And that's what that bourbon should be sold for.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
in a Texaco.
what the bourbon market in general has done over the last 10 years is incredible.
Yeah.
Just with brands like Buffalo Trace.
That green one
Weller.
right there.
My boy just came out with one. I might have to buy it online because I haven't seen it in liquor stores yet. Steph Curry.
Yeah.
Gentleman's
well,
cut.
Also, you want to talk
What
Dr.
is it?
Disrespect?
It's a bourbon. It's a
It's
7-year
his bourbon?
7-year age his bourbon. He's been working on it for 7 years.
Dr. Disrespect, he's a very well-known streamer. He just released his own bourbon.
Dr. Disrespect.
Dr. Disrespect.
I don't
he's
know.
a-
I think we should partner
We should,
and
yeah.
release like with these guys. Like
Yeah.
we'll do like a Mile
Real
High
estate,
Perspective
yeah.
branded bourbon.
That'd be good. If you guys like to see this, let us know. Drop
The
in
Mile
the
High
comments.
Bourbon Perspective.
The Mile High Bourbon Perspective. Yeah.
No, I mean, there's no Mile High bourbon. We're just
Exactly.
talking
No,
Mile High
fuck it.
bourbon.
Go for it. Go for
Done.
it. Well, guys, as we let this open and we sip through it,
Secretary of State right now.
Yep.
Before anybody else.
Copyright.
Copyright.
I think it's a good time to move into the topic for the day, which is HOAs. And obviously, the first question that we want to cover is, what is HOA?
Yeah, I hope you have the other ones because you don't have an iPhone, so your text messages don't translate to my MacBook.
Okay. Well, I'll pull them.
To start, I think a lot of my clients and just the general public, the misunderstanding that an HOA is an entity that's there just to govern and restrict you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but it's in the name, Homeowners Association. You are part of it.
Yep.
It's not them just, you need to pay them and they're the hearsay, all bow down. No, go to the meetings. Hell, serve on the board.
Yeah.
You know, you're part of it.
Absolutely.
You don't just pay them. Go ruffle some feathers if you want.
Absolutely. And here, Jameson, let me see if I can figure this out because I think I got my text messages on my fancy watch here,
Wow.
so I can pull it up. But to kind of start it off, like I said, what is an HOA? And Oscar touched on it. HOA is the Homeowners Association. So a lot of the time when you're looking for a home, if you're driving around, you see homes like cul-de-sacs of homes, basically like neighborhoods, right?
Yep.
A lot of the time when you see homes like that, that is where you're going to find an HOA because it is a bunch of homes being built together, and regulation tends to be a little bit more necessary when you have that many people investing in a property, right? And what we've seen is a growth in HOAs because of the growth in populations and people moving in from all over the area. So first off, on what is an HOA, governing body, right? That kind of goes over, basically covers things like, what is you have to upkeep your lawn, you have to upkeep your trash cans can't be in a certain area, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time HOAs get a very negative light. I honestly think because, like we talk about all the time, owning a home is your biggest investment. It's the biggest thing you're paying for.
Yeah.
And I know for me personally, it's like, yo, this is my house. I bought this so nobody tells me what to do. And who the hell are you to tell me what to do, right? So that's the biggest thing is, HOAs aren't innately bad, like just right out of the gate, they're not bad, but there are stipulations and things that they put into play that can make them a little bit more of an annoyance.
Yeah, and I mean they can vary on neighborhoods, right? So if
Right.
you look at, go ahead.
No, we belong to the same HOA.
Yes.
Exact same HOA. But we don't belong to the same community.
Correct.
Within the HOA.
Right.
My color schemes on my house are different from yours.
Yep.
And we can't do the same.
Yep.
Like you can't say I want my house to look like
Oscar's house.
yeah,
Yep.
and vice versa.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what an HOA does, right? There's 4 main areas. Number one, there are maintenance services. So whether that's snow removal, trash removal, common area development, landscaping, etc. Insurance policies. So they have to insure some of those common areas and make sure that they're getting paid for if they get damaged, vandalized, etc. Amenities. So like in our case, right? We live in Crystal Valley. We have the Pinnacle. So the HOA pays for the Pinnacle, the pool, the staffing, all
The
that kind of
YMCA
stuff.
folk.
If you're in condo townhome, same thing. Amenities tend to be a little bit more exaggerated, so it's a little bit more expensive. And then the other one's is establishing community rules. And I think that is where
Yes.
the sticking points come because I look at an HOA just like I look at any elected official. Like it's going to be as good as you, the community member, make it. I think there's less flex in the sense of like
No. I agree with you, but I agree with you. But the reason I say that is because that takes a large amount of personal accountability and acceptance of that fact.
Yes.
I recently have had a run-in with
Yeah.
my exterior paint. I'm got some hail damage. My painters are just waiting, and they're like, Oscar, we're going to start hitting colder weather. We need to start. And I could not get the HOA because we just switched over, and that it got lost, and it was just a pain in the ass. Dialed up my delegate for Opal Ridge, where I live. Rob White, you the man.
And what is a delegate for HOA?
So he's the one that the homeowners go to and say, hey, this is what's going on, help me out. And they have supposedly a direct line or a little bit more pull to the people that are on the board of the HOA. And he went up to bat. He was like, Oscar, I'm not going to rest till I get it done. I said, understand, I wouldn't be pushing it as hard, but if I don't get it done in the next 2-3 weeks, winter and fall's coming, I'm not getting my house painted until next year. And guess what? That exposed wood, because of the paint, it's gonna rot, and then I'm gonna have bigger problems. And then next year when I'm able to paint, I'm not gonna be able to paint with the money that I got from the insurance.
Yeah.
So he was like, I'm on it.
Yeah.
And he was on it. So yes, he was great.
Yep.
Yeah.
But again, my whole point to what Jameson said is you took the time out of your day to reach out and make sure that this got done, right? You reached out to him. And I think a lot of the time, and guys, you could throw hate comments in, but I think that we've reached a point as a whole where so many people are used to saying, no, that you did that. It's your responsibility. You did that. Instead of accepting the responsibility and going, oh, well, I didn't call. You know, like, you're right. The HOA is supposed to be there. Well, they're supposed to be there for me. Yeah, but it's still your responsibility to get in touch with them.
Yeah, and I think, you can go on a whole existential argument about personal accountability and whatnot, but if you look at an HOA, when we talk about just keeping it how we start the conversation, what is an HOA? Its main purpose, realistically, if you boil it down, is to maintain and improve home property values.
Yes.
That's what it is. And how they do that can vary based on the community, can vary based on their guidelines. Some HOAs are way more strict than others, right? So
And it's all voted in by
correct,
homeowners.
it is. And the thing is, when you look at the turnout, right? And I'm sure that's probably something else that's going to come up.
Yep.
That's why I'm saying it's going to be what you make it to be, because if you were part of an HOA that is extremely strict, looking at you, Meadows and Castle Rock,
Highlands Ranch.
but if you don't go to those meetings and voice concerns, and those delegates are hell-bent on saying, hey, if your trash is picked up at 8 a.m. on a Monday, you have 3 hours to move it back into your garage, otherwise we're going to fine you, then go to a meeting and figure that out. They're doing it because it maintains property values, right? And you can make the
You don't want the trash cans out all week. And
right.
Yeah.
You don't want lawns being unmowed.
Yeah,
your
your neighborhood looking like crap.
Correct. Yes.
But again, your delegate is important because it could be. I could have called my delegate and he would have been like, "No, rules are rules."
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, "No," and then it would have been an ugly fight. Guy was awesome.
Which is also why they're
Awesome.
elected officials.
And I got to know one of my neighbors,
Yeah.
because he lives in my neighborhood, right?
Well, and I think
And-
that's also something that, that's a great point, Oscar. I think that's something that's been lost. I mean,
Absolutely. I agree.
Is the connecting with your neighbors part? Because I know growing up in New York, and it's funny because a lot of people think of New York and they go, oh, well, there's 2 billion people or however many people in there. There's no way, you're just a number there.
8 million in Manhattan.
Right? And you think, oh, there's just a number there. That's it. No, like what that causes people to do is then create community. I grew up going to block parties. Like everybody on the block got together and said, hey, this weekend we're shutting down. Everybody put the cars in the driveway. We're having a block party. Right?
Well, there's two sides to that coin, right? You could say, oh, it's 8 million people. We're just individuals. No one's going to want to. Or create a strong freaking
Exactly.
8 million person community. Holy
Exactly.
crap.
Yep.
That's a movement.
Yeah. And I mean, but again, we have power in our numbers, right? So even when it comes to an HOA, now imagine if it's you versus the HOA, the board that's governing, or if it's you plus 5 of your neighbors that are also fighting the same thing. You can make change.
Absolutely.
Right? You just have to put the effort in. So guys, bring a casserole to your neighbors. You see somebody moving in, bring
Please
some.
don't bring
find out who your
casseroles to me.
delegate is.
I fucking hate casseroles.
I can't stand casseroles either. So
Somebody
don't.
shows up and order casserole, I'm tossing
I
it
don't
out.
know.
Bring me a
Man, I
pie.
like some good
I like
casseroles.
pie. I like pie.
Hey, Jameson,
I like
this is a
cookies.
green bean casserole. Get that shit out of my face.
Bring
cake.
Jameson some
bring some
cake.
brownies. Bring something.
No, just
right?
bring me a bottle of whiskey. I mean,
There
come
you
on.
go.
You
Yeah,
just
there you
watching
go.
this podcast.
So
You bring me a Buffalo Trace, we're going to be best friends.
That's right.
absolutely. I mean, that's literally how I met JC.
That's it.
He was the listing agent on the house that I bought. I was obviously my own buyer's agent. And we closed. Everything was good. Obviously, we got along during the transaction. We're like, hey, we could do some more deals together. What happens the next morning? I get a knock at my door. I'm like, what the hell? Who's at my house at 8 o'clock in the morning? I go out there, and it's JC, like, hey, buddy. And that was his thing. Hey, buddy, how's it going? Everything good? I was like, yeah, everything's good, man. He goes, I just want to give you this. He brought me the bottle of smoke white.
Yeah, now imagine if he brought you a green bean casserole.
I would have been like, dude, get the fuck off my path.
This podcast would have
Who
never
comes to
happened.
your door at 8 a.m. with a casserole?
Oh man,
You got
That's
15
great.
seconds.
That's great. So just to,
Get off, this is a make my day steak. Get off my property.
so just to kind of wrap it in. So what an HOA is basically an organization that is in your community, in your neighborhood, that helps regulate things like your lawn, trash cans. I've even seen some people, say, hey, if you have a branded vehicle, then it can't be in the driveway, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And again, although that is limiting, right? It is all there for the betterment of the community and to keep home values up, if not, keep them where they're at and not lose anything.
Maintain or improve.
They don't want RVs in the
Yes.
street. They don't want RVs just hanging out for weeks at a time. They don't want your Comcast van that you use for work. You could put it on your driveway. You just can't have it on the street.
Right.
It's stuff like that that's just going to be an annoyance to everyone else.
Yeah.
It's trying to make it fair for everyone, not that one neighbor that has a trampoline on their front yard and that other neighbor that grows corn stalk in their front yard.
Yep.
You know who you are. I'm sorry, lady, but you know who you are. You live in my block. I don't know why the HOA hasn't told her anything. But that,
And not once have you given me ears
Any
of
of you-
corn.
you have not given me any corn.
Bring me a basket of corn.
But
Yeah.
it's in essence, it was created so that, again, the value is maintained in the fact that the common areas are maintained. That a lot of your money goes to that. The flowers, your lights. Our freaking light on our sign was out for a whole year. Oh, where's Opal Ridge? I don't know. Our fucking sign's out.
Yeah.
But stuff like that's supposed to be covered.
Yep.
Trash is covered.
Yep.
So they did negotiate with Waste Management, which I've had my fair share of earfuls to the HOA about them.
Yeah.
But stuff like that, it's supposed to be a good thing. Now, where it gets ugly is that stupid rules get voted in. And
Meadows,
some of those
I'm looking
rules,
at you.
some of those rules are by county too. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't have pit bulls or stuff like that. But stupid rules get voted in, and no one goes to contest them.
Yeah.
They don't go to the meetings. You don't go to the meetings, you're not going to get what you want.
No.
You could be mad to your blue in your face. Go to the meeting, say, hey, I don't like this. Who knows? Maybe some of your other neighbors are there, and you're like, you know what? I don't like that either. Then you vote and remove it. But typically, the head person at the HOA, unfortunately, more times than not, being a real estate agent, I've come across this person, is that kid that never got picked for fucking kickball and is pissed at the world. And he's like, I have power now.
Yep.
Fuck everyone. I'm enforcing these things to the T, and that sucks. That's where it really starts to suck.
Yeah, yeah, and so like we said, that's the basis of what an HOA is, and kind of where it sits in the value to the homeowner. Now the next question, that's another frequently asked question that people have, is what are my obligations to the HOA as a homeowner in this community? So what do I have to do to uphold and stay in good standing with my HOA, right? And that is a phenomenal question because, like we talked about, and you've heard us talk about on.
Sorry, I'm reading the question.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I have it on.
I was like,
mine
I
too.
got it on my watch too. I'm gonna.
I switched away from my Apple Watch, so
okay.
mine.
Now you just tell
Yeah, but
time.
you're just looking at Jupiter,
Yeah,
right?
no, your watch it does what it's supposed to do and tell
Exactly.
time.
That's right.
it.
That's right.
I got Caitlin looking for another one for me while she's in Vegas.
Nice, perfect. But yeah, so it's basically what do I have to do in order to stay in good standing with my HOA? Because a lot of the time, and like I was going to say earlier, is we talked about it. If you do not listen to the HOA, listen loosely, if you do not comply with orders that they send you,
Correct.
they can put a lien on your property. They can.
So they'll give you a nasty letter first.
Yep.
They'll either mail you or they'll go to your door. They'll say, hey man, your weeds are kind of crappy. If we need to come back out here, we're gonna fine you, and then they'll give you some time to take care of it. They did it to me. We had crazy rainfall at the beginning of the year, like crazy rainfall, and then I was either working or I'd come home and it was raining. I didn't want to mow the lawn or pull weeds, and I'm not gonna go pull weeds while there's a thunderstorm outside. I'm sorry, I'm just not.
We had a lot of
And
rain this year.
it went back to my house, my fucking rules, bitch.
Yeah.
But so they gave me the nasty letter, and I was like, how dare you? You live in the damn same community. It's been raining every effing day, and Mark and Bob and I started Todd, and I wrote out the email. They all have weeds, and I deleted it. And I was like, I'm gonna go pull the weeds.
Sometimes you gotta
some of it's
step
good
back,
though, right? You
Yeah.
just gotta type it out and then
Yeah.
put
Yeah,
that
no,
bitch in the draft
yeah.
folder. You're like, all right, I'm
I
good.
deleted it. I went out, pulled my weeds, and it was done.
Yeah.
They didn't send out a second one, and to this day, knock on wood, I haven't been fined for any of that stuff. But you know, they'll send you a warning, maybe 2,
Yeah.
and then they'll fine you, and then you have to pay that fine, or else you go to collections.
Yep.
And if you get fined they'll foreclose when you don't pay them
Yes.
for many months.
Yeah.
They're not going to foreclose after the first 2.
No.
But
there's
like
whole-
6 months down the road,
Yeah,
8
there's
months, and
whole-
you haven't paid them, they're like,
Yeah.
we'll put a lien on your house,
Yep.
and then we're going to foreclose on that.
Yeah, I think
Well-
Oscar puts it right. You have to, if we go back and say, okay, what do you have to do?
Yep.
You got to pay them on time. For the most part, I set up auto pay, so I don't have to worry about it.
Yep.
Right. You can get it done through escrow if you want your mortgage company to pay for it. You can do that.
So you're
you
paying
can pay
an
it.
extra $8 right now.
Yeah, you can pay it
I'm pretty
automatic.
pissed on that, the new HOA.
Yeah, you can pay it manually every single month if you just want to deal with it, and then you have to abide by the rules, regulations, and any sort of fines. Like those are the things you guys have to do from an HOA standpoint. And then I would add the third thing is you have to be involved
Yes.
because
Absolutely.
that's
That's key.
It's not something that is a requirement of being in an HOA community, but I am telling you, like from a realtor standpoint, we always talk about the home as an asset.
Yep.
And one of the things that will sell houses above all else is
Condition.
the condition of the house or what do I want to say? Pride of ownership, right?
Yeah.
And you can tell if a house has pride of ownership. We talk about curb appeal, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Right? So if I'm looking at, okay, I'm going to list my house in 5 years. Well, if I don't keep up with the curb appeal all the time,
Yep.
by the time I go to list my house, you can't get mad at me as a realtor when I go, hey, you think your house is worth 680. The feedback we're getting is it's worth 610. Why? Well, because your
can't see
driveway's
your
a mess.
sidewalk.
Your lawn is patchy.
Yep.
Your rocks are gone. Your bushes are dead. Your paint is chipping on your house. Like
You have a
all of that
308 on
stuff-
your lawn
Yeah.
motor.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you got to understand that, like, that's what. So, for example, I had a listing in Parker.
Yep.
Just real life example, right? And we went through in the pre-listing conversation. I was asking them specifically, did the HOA have any sort of liens, or did they have any sort of special assessments, or whatever it was, right? Turns out they got a letter, and it was a community-wide letter that the HOA did a community review, and this HOA was known for being a stickler, right? But it's also maintained property value. So it's
in
a,
Parker?
It's a
You're
give and take.
stickler in
I know,
Parker? You're
crazy,
really-
right?
yeah.
And they said, hey, here's the deal. We did a survey of the neighborhood. Your home has shown that it potentially needs brand new exterior paint because of cracking and wood rot and so on and so forth. We walked the house, and sure enough, probably hadn't been painted in about 10 to 15 years, which is usually the lifespan of most paints. But in order to sell the house, they had to either have one of two things happen. The current homeowners, the sellers, would have to paint the house, submit it to the HOA before we could close, or we had to have a written agreement saying that the buyers were going to take responsibility for painting the exterior of the house within a certain time frame to maintain the look, appeal, and value of the neighborhood. And that just is what it is. But what that does now is if that house has new paint and then they require another house, when you do go around to sell your house at a later date, you're now not only benefiting from your own pride of ownership, but you're benefiting from the rest of your neighbors, because as their homes are more well taken care of, the property values increase. And you don't want to buy a house for the purpose of losing money on it.
Right. And I look at it this way. Look at it as an accountability partner. That's basically what HOA is doing.
They're homeownership coaches.
Yeah, they're homeownership accountability partners, because if you let your house go, it's going to cost you a lot more money in the long run.
Yep.
If your house is looking beat up and needs paint, the HOA is going to be like, hey, man, you need to keep up with it. And guess what? They're kind of saving you some cash, because if you let it go, you get the rot. You got to replace siding, and you get all this. Look at it that way. Yes, it's going to piss you off. I don't like being told what to do, but in the long run, you know what? They're doing you a favor. You have weeds everywhere. Take care of them, because if they go rampant, guess what? Now you got to do all landscaping or get out there and beat that for 2 weeks pulling weeds.
And that's a great point too, Oscar. And we're talking about real life.
As much as it sucks. you know.
But we're talking about real life experiences with HOAs. A lot of people think that your dealing with the HOA starts when you buy the home. And that's not true,
Yeah.
right? You're dealing with the HOA when you're looking for the homes. Your agent is reaching out to the HOAs looking for documentation, looking for things. So just again, real life example, I was helping a client on a property in Westminster, and it is a higher price home. It was 1.7 million, and he was going in and he wanted to renovate the place. Basically, hey, I want to go in and do all of this change. I want to add staircase here, extend this out here. What I had to do is I had to go reach out to the HOA and get their paperwork and then dig through and say, okay, yes, you can build. You have the right to build, but this is the building coordinates or the building aspects that you have to stay within. And one of them was in this community, all the homes were to have a mountain lodge feel, right? And obviously,
was it Legacy Ridge?
Yep. And it was all supposed to have like that smaller kind of, again, mountain home feel. So that accounts for how it looks when it's built. That accounts for your landscaping, what you can actually use for, fauna and different bushes.
What's crazy and unique about that is Legacy Ridge is a golf course community. It's Legacy Ridge Golf Course, and it's a golf course community. You would never think you needed to have a lodge look.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
And it's extensive, and most buyers don't read. I didn't read through all my covenants because they're pretty basic, right?
It's mind-numbingly boring.
Yes, and for the most part, they're all going to be the same, right? Just upkeep with your house, but do thumb through it. I was over-caffeinated one time, and I read through some HOAs for a client because they had some very specific things they wanted. It took me about 2 hours.
I just picture Oscar sitting
The
at
covenants,
his desk, just like speed.
Well, no, dude. So I same thing, right? Like especially, and we can tie this back to a previous episode where we talked about affordable housing and we touched on ADUs for a little bit, right?
Before I forget, hold that thought.
Go for it. Go for it.
And we're not just talking houses, condos and townhomes
Yes.
too. They're biggest HOA, but you have the same rights and rules.
Yep.
Yes.
Sorry.
We talked about HOAs. We talked about ADUs, so auxiliary dwelling units that can be built on properties. You can either rent them out, use them as they used to call them mother-in-law suites, so on and so forth. Well, if you look at a city like Colorado versus a city like Austin, since I was just there,
Denver and Austin.
the zoning, city like Denver versus Austin, the zoning is very, very different.
Yes.
And Denver has been on the tail end of population dense building because of their zoning laws and their HOA rules and
Especially
regulations,
out in
right?
Boulder.
So when we talk about zoning, you can think of like zoning articles, like the HOA for the city or the county.
For the area, yep.
And those can get confusing too. And like I said, our job is to provide resources, but we had a listing recently that was listed as zoned as agriculture.
But
There's a question on, well, what does that mean? Like, what can I get without? And it's different depending on where you're at and what county you're in. So for Douglas County, for example, you can be zoned A1, which is agriculture, which normally means I can have a certain amount of livestock based on my acreage, right? But if it's under 35 acres, you're bumped down to RR, which is rural residential, which now means you can have the acreage, but you can't have the livestock because you're on less than 35 acres, unless you want to apply for a temporary or permanent zoning fix, which is a whole other issue, right? So the point is, when you guys are looking at certain things, the HOAs, whether it's an HOA from a community standpoint or the zoning restrictions from a county standpoint, city or county standpoint, the whole purpose is they're trying to balance providing homes, but also doing it in a way that raises property values, right? Because if you look at, let's say you go to an unincorporated, and here's a fun fact. So across the United States, what percentage of homeowners do you think live under an HOA? Homeowners.
Wow, that's a good one. And that's something I probably never thought about.
I'm going to go 45%.
45% HOA. I'm going to go ahead and say the Midwest and the South will shoot an HOA. So that's a big part of the United States. I'm going to go.
You're going to tell me what I'm going
to
do.
I'm going to go about 30%.
I like where Oscar's head's at. It's 26.
Wow.
Okay.
So 90 million Americans live in an HOA, right? Which means 75% don't. So if you go to some of those communities, these are some of the trade-offs that you have to look at when you're looking at buying a house, right? So I toured some houses up in Elizabeth, which for by and
Albert
large
County
does not have a ton of HOAs. We were up by Spring Valley Ranch Golf Course, right? And there's communities like the Century communities have HOAs because they're planned communities.
Yep.
Then you've got communities off of whatever road, Shenandoah Drive, all up there. And it's great because you get the acreage, right? But your neighbor doesn't have to maintain shit in his backyard. So you could have the pride of ownership that you normally have on this 5-acre property, and your shit's well maintained, it's manicured, your fences are repaired, they're painted, all that looks great. But your next door neighbor that you look into may have 47 tractors, a school bus, and 18 goats wandering around that sometimes jump over your yard. And because there's no HOA to mandate what they can or cannot do on their property, that is something you have to live with.
Yes.
And again, I look at acreage with HOA bougie, right? Because when you want acreage, it's going to be wild, man. They have livestock and
Unless it's in an acreage community like Belmont or Keys.
Right. So
Ranch
within that, there's still perimeters, right? You got zoning from the county, which believe it or not, Jefferson County, Lakewood, I think you have 2 domestic animals per quarter acre, which that means if you have a quarter acre in Lakewood, you could have 2 horses. Which is crazy, right?
Yep.
Douglas County, you
and Douglas County, you cannot.
Unless you have 35 acres.
And you have your well,
Yes.
which the well is either domestic well, or agricultural. What can you do with that well water, right? So you have all of that. So the HOA within acreage is for the person that wants 5 to 10 acres in a somewhat looking community, because if you have acreage, it's dirt road.
Yeah.
It's drive down dirt road.
You're not going to see your neighbor in the morning.
Yeah,
Well, yes.
Jason Aldean, it's acreage, right? Dirt road. But the person that wants land and doesn't want to be next to their neighbors and have maybe 1 or 2 horses and maintain and have their RV and have just a really cool country feel and maintain value, that's where they establish those HOA. If you want acreage and not give a shit, you got to go out 40 acres in Bennett.
Right. Well, and there's a
Todd Creek is a good one.
Yes, Todd Creek is good. But here's a perfect example, right? Because the other piece of this HOA is the statistics show that communities or houses that have an HOA sell for anywhere from 4 to 10% more than the exact same house with no HOA.
I would
right?
rival and say it's probably higher here
I
in
would
Colorado.
Assume, but I think it takes into account, like you said, the Midwest and the South.
Yeah.
It's a nationwide. Colorado, I'd say it's probably 25-30%.
Oh, yeah.
It takes in
easily.
consideration Louisiana, which that state just needs a
that's-
bath.
But it had the levees that are already broke, so it's bathing in its own bathwater. That's the problem. Just kidding, Louisiana. We love you.
We love
LSU,
you.
go
We love
Tigers.
you.
It was one of
Yeah.
my favorite places.
Go Tigers.
Yes, bourbon is big over
Yeah,
there. We
go
do
Tigers.
love you.
But so, for example, right, when I toured the houses in Elizabeth on 5 acres, and they were 25 to 3,500 square feet, their price points were anywhere between $650 and $750. That same house, same square footage, same acreage in Bell Mountain with an established HOA, you're at 1.2 to
Absolutely.
2 million, right?
100%.
So the trade-off is
You got paved roads,
Exactly.
maintain common
Right.
areas.
Yes.
I mean, it makes for a very country club feel
Yes.
when
Yeah.
you have acreage with an HOA.
yes,
And you could buy land
correct.
out by 11 Mile.
Yep.
You could have 5 acres, 30 acres. They have an HOA out there. They will not let you just throw your trailer
No.
out there.
Yep.
They're like, nope, get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
You need some paved roads.
Yeah, so it's just something as you guys
Something
are
to look at.
looking, if you're looking at land and you're looking at HOAs, again, like Oscar and I just talked about, right? They're not everywhere. It's only 26% of the population, but the trade-offs are there. Do you want your property values almost a guaranteed increase? Do you want to have the freedom to do whatever you want, but understand that your neighbor can now also do whatever they want?
Right.
And are you okay with saying, okay, I can't choose my neighbor, so I really hope, because you can't knock on his door like, hey man, can you get rid of the broken down Greyhound bus?
The king of segways over here, ladies and
saying?
gentlemen. The king of segways.
All right, well, no, and it boils down to if you want land with an HOA, you either want the country club feel or you want to be able to piss out your front porch.
Right.
Yeah.
And they come with a price both.
Yeah. And so we covered what is an HOA, what are some obligations that you have if you live within an HOA, and this next question is going to be kind of a two-parter because it goes hand in hand, and it's what are some of the common regulations within HOAs, and fees that accompany fees, and then how are those decided and how are those fees decided, right? And we touched on it at the beginning. HOAs are only as good as the people participating in them.
But they're also governed by rules as well. You're always going to have the meeting minutes.
Yep.
They're there for all homeowners. What went on in the meeting, what they talked about, what they voted on, what got turned down, what was approved, and you are always privy to the budget. Where are we spending our money? Where
Yes.
are we overspending? Why am I paying $500 a month for a condo building that's falling apart? Someone's not doing the budget right. Or are they trying to, there are these things called special assessments. They're in taxes and they're in a lot in HOAs. Say you live in a condo building and their staircases are to shit. Well, they're going to fix all of them and it's going to be like $300,000 and they're going to disperse to every homeowner and they're going to give you a short period of time. It gets kind of unfair. What if you live on the bottom unit? I don't use the stairs.
Right.
Stairs aren't mine. Why am I? That's where it gets sticky.
Yep.
That's where you need to, hey, go to the meetings and be like, hey, what about these 4 units that have no stairs? Do we exclude them? And then the special assessments aren't forever. That means the special assessments say that they did do that repair. They fixed all the stairs. Now everybody has to pay an extra $100 a month for the next 6 months for next year. Sometimes they give you 2 months to pay it.
Yeah.
So it's $2,000 a unit,
But
and you got to pay it.
Well, and to your point though, to the point of the question
Go
is,
to the meetings.
Exactly. So how are fees and how are these regulations come up with? It's based on you. You and the people that you live near, your neighbors, your next door neighbor, the neighbor down the street. You guys control those fees and those regulations. And yes, there's some basic level ones that are written in when an HOA goes in. They probably copy and paste it, but it is based on the homeowners in the community that regulate and do some of those regulations, rules, and stuff like that.
So there's a couple things I want to touch on. The first thing is HOAs, not by and large, in perpetuity, have to abide by federal and state laws. An HOA cannot make you do or not do something that is in complete contrast. Oscar, where's your face mask? The HOA, the AC.
The AC just kicked back in.
They can't. So, for example, an HOA can't prohibit somebody from flying the American flag.
Yep.
Right? They can prohibit the size of said flag.
They can prohibit political
may or may not have had
propaganda.
a neighbor behind me that erected a 35-foot presidential candidate flag and flew it for 2 straight months until the HOA told him to take it down. But it's an American flag, you can't do it. The second piece of this is, like, there's, when you talk about restrictions, actually, no, sorry. The second piece is the special assessment piece, how those come to part. Home buying tip 101 for this. If you're a home buyer looking at condos and townhomes and you're going, oh my God, why is the HOA $500? It's a special assessment. A majority of the time, that special assessment, especially in Colorado, is due to what?
Repairs.
Hail damage.
I was going to say hail.
Okay. So here's the crazy part.
Make the seller pay before you close.
This yes, but if you go one step further, and this is for buyers in general, because we talk about interest rates, it's a hot topic. FHAs technically have lower interest rates right now on mortgages. FHAs have to do what's called a condo review. Okay, this is very different than a townhome review, both of which can have special assessments. But if there is a special assessment on a condo, it may not be approved for an FHA loan. So it's just something to keep in mind. And a lot of the times those hail damage claims, because they will devastate an entire community of condos, will go on for years without getting resolved.
2 things. One, depending on, go to your meetings, because the one example that I gave about the staircases, it was real.
Yeah.
And it was in an affluent condo community in the Denver Tech Center. And my client did okay, but she didn't have an extra $2,700 just to give up in a month. So that hurt her. She should have went to the meeting. It was like, no, let's spread it out within the year. It'll be whatever. 2, and I just learned this not too long ago, there is special assessment insurance. And a lot of people don't know they have it. If you get a special assessment and they're like, oh, it's going to be $100 for the next 12 months or $2,700 in the next month, insurance agent, do I have special assessment insurance? And guess what? Your insurance will cover it. It'll save you a boatload of money.
Another point as to why you be on top of your insurance.
Be on top of your game as a realtor and choose a right realtor. You know, if you do have a special assessment, contact your insurance company, because more likely than not, that is going to save you $3,000.
Yeah. And we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier throughout the conversation, but I want you guys to give, because you are in HOAs, give some examples of common regulations that HOAs would
Yeah,
give.
and I'll give you the top in my head, the top 5.
Yep.
Right. So architectural controls, and that's
Architectural
specifically
review.
due to ADUs and additions. Okay, that's one of the big ones because they want everything in the community to be congruent.
Yep.
In order to continue to keep property levels high. Lawn and holiday decoration restrictions. We're kind of on Halloween and Christmas. That's another one, right? It's stupid, but at the same time,
I can't have any. I live in a freaking vortex. Whatever
yeah,
I put.
ours we can
Flies
erect.
away.
I can erect a 15-foot skeleton in my driveway. Nobody says anything.
Oh, dude, I put some tombstones for Halloween last year. They ended
Flew
up
away.
probably in your yard.
Yeah.
He lives like a half mile away. It just blew him away. I was like,
man.
The home maintenance standards. So we
Yep.
talked about that. That's the pride of home ownership. Fourth one.
And that includes things like your lawn, your front door, your
Yes.
mailbox,
Yeah, yeah.
and stuff like that.
front door, believe it or
Also, HVAC issues, natural gas leaks, drainage issues, all that kind of stuff. The fourth one, big one, is probably parking rules.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Especially because it
yes.
folds into, like, if you've got multiple people living in the same house, if it's a rental in a neighborhood that has an HOA, the parking rules, you can't have RVs, boats, branded trucks like we talked about earlier.
Comcast trucks in front.
Yep. And the
Xfinity,
fifth
whatever.
one that I think is going to be the big talking point going forward in general is short-term rental policy.
Yes.
And that's a lot in condos. I have 2 condos on the market right now, and that's the number one question they ask.
Yep.
What's the short term? You can't VRBO them.
Exactly. Or you
Well,
can.
and that's
60
but you
days,
have-
60-day minimum.
Well,
Exactly.
and we talked about the growth of Airbnb and rental units, and over the last 5 years because of their control.
And it's
on the
not
market.
even condos.
It's
Oh,
houses
My
too.
friend
Yeah.
Dawn,
Yeah.
she tried to VRBO her house, and the HOA was like, "No, you're not."
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's a house. It's my house. I would do what the hell I
Yeah,
want.
so, like, for example, Douglas County allows it, but
Yep.
there's limitations.
Yeah.
But
Jefferson
within-
County's stickler.
Within Douglas County, Jefferson County doesn't allow anything.
No.
They got rid of it last
Yes.
year.
And the city of Lakewood won't erect new I think commercial buildings right now.
Correct. Yes. And then if you look at Douglas County, it has different rules than Castle Rock.
Yep.
So Castle Rock's more stringent on short-term rentals than Douglas County is. But if you go from Castle Rock to Larkspur, which Larkspur is in Douglas County as well, they have no rules whatsoever. You can
Yeah, that's
VRBO,
just Larkspur,
Airbnb,
though.
etc. Right, but I mean, like, so my in-laws, they VRBO their $2 million house on 5 acres, right, in a HOA covenant community, paved roads, everything. But they do it every single year for the Air Force graduation.
Yep.
Make a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
And it's a short-term rental. They do it for 6-7 days, but there's no limitation. So there's a lot of people. I'm working with a client now that was looking in Jefferson County, sent me some cabins essentially that are up in the mountains, right? So
Morrison.
very, very, Morrison, West Littleton. And
Conifer.
his plan was, well, I want to VRBO it out. You can, but you have to live in it at least 50% of the year.
Yep.
That's
Right.
wild.
And then when you do short-term rental out, the minimum short-term rental is 14 days. Minimum.
Well, and
And you have to have a business license.
the point of
and
that,
you have
too,
to renew it every year.
right. And Oscar, you said it earlier. Is that this is my house kind of a deal, but to be the devil's advocate for it, a lot of the times, these VRBOs, Airbnbs, short-term rentals, they're renting out to people on a regular basis. So you may have
Yes.
5 different families come in within a week that have different vehicles, that have different, noise complaints, whatever it is. So again, just that limitation is to keep up with the community and the quality of life of everybody.
Peace of mind.
Yes.
And peace of mind. Exactly. Because, anybody can rent an Airbnb.
And they're going to be
Anybody can
wild.
do
They're
a
not going to
VRBO.
respect you. I don't know you. I'm going to be gone in a week or a day or 2 months.
Yeah.
And, you don't want that.
No, exactly. So although, it is limiting, and yes, it is your house, but again, we don't like HOAs because of the limitations, but at the end of the day, they are there to keep regulations and a lot of the time safety. Because if you do have, and I just read something recently where Airbnb has implemented an AI technology that's cut down their partying by like 35%. But now think about that, right? You're angry at an HOA for limiting your short-term rentals. But what if this house is known as a party house?
Right.
And people are just renting it out. Now you have 10, 15 cars in front of your house at all times. There's garbage on the lawn, whatever it is. That's why things like that
Well,
are in
imagine
place.
imagine if you're the person listing the house next door.
Yeah.
And then during
exactly.
the showings.
I hope my neighbors
You know
never
what I
list
mean?
their house
Yep.
because I have outdoor speakers. And guess
Well,
what?
what- yeah,
Oscar
but
likes
what-
to smoke
what's the-
cigars
there's a-
outside and listen to his music.
The
Yeah,
Zach-
but it's Oscar. It's not Oscar and 47 of his
No,
closest friends.
no,
What
it's
about-
just Oscar.
Right. But
Crazy
what about,
ass.
and I mean, perfect example, if you haven't seen it, Neighbors, the movie with
Yeah.
Zac Efron and Seth Rogen.
Yep.
That's exactly
Yes.
what it is. They bought the house. They're like, oh, we're so excited. Neighbors next to them sold it to a fraternity. Parties every day. People coming to
So
look at the
a
house.
great example without HOA is I sold a house in Rhino. right? It's been in the family since the 1800s. The grandfather came from Ireland, built this house, was old two-hand.
Wow.
Long story short, they've had it forever. A big known investor here in town bought the rest of the block with tax liens and other means, and he has deep pockets. She did not want to sell to him. I took the listing, tried to sell it. We ended up selling it. She's like, I do not want to sell it to this guy. As a realtor, I can't do that, but I had to, she's...
Well,
Retain it.
actually, you can if it's an investor.
But I can do what my seller wants me to do.
Yes.
So I could give her the information. She could accept it or not. So he, throughout the process of this, would try to move her out. This house was in the family so long, it didn't have indoor plumbing. It was just there. And if you know Rhino, it's very commercial, right?
Yeah. Especially now.
He there was 3 residential properties. One he tore down, made it a warehouse. The other one he kept next to hers. He turned it into a halfway house.
Yep.
And
Basically
a
straight her
nasty
out.
halfway house. And still, she's like, this dude's been trying to drive me out for the last 10 years.
Good for her.
He still won.
Wow.
He came in and had someone else buy it as an LLC that was assignable, and he ended up buying the whole block. And now the I think it's UC Health buildings there.
Wow.
He leveled everything and made his $1 billion thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
But it was a hard go at it.
To your point, Oscar, yeah, things like that can come in, and that's why that HOA puts regulations on with stuff like that, right? And with so those are some of the common things that we see with HOAs. Now, the next one that I want to talk about and touch on is you've gone through, the HOA, the rules and regulations, and like Oscar touched on it earlier, you're getting a couple pieces of mail, you're getting some stuff that's saying, hey, you need to change this. So one of the most common questions is, how do we resolve these issues, or how do we go through working with the HOA to get stuff like that done? So I'll go ahead and let one of you guys take it.
You just did it with your delegate. So.
Yeah.
So within a community like ours, you have someone that's going to be your liaison, the person that's going to take the community's gripes and then take them to the HOA and fight for you, right? They're the ones that are going to be your voice. There's steps that you could take, like with the architectural review. We recently had a change and again, as a homeowners association, you get to pick who professionally manages it, runs your books, does the minutes, chooses who's going to be on the board, all that stuff, and then they take off. We went from Associa we were with
We're
MMI.
Associa
Now we're
Yeah.
Associa,
Yeah.
but then Associa has a Town Square, which is an
Yep.
app that has nothing to do with the damn HOA. It pisses me off. But anyway, I had hail damage on my house, had to get it painted. I submitted everything that I needed. They were super awesome at Associa. We're going to send it to the review board, and then we switched. A month later, I still don't have anything. And I'm reviewing and I'm sending everything because Associa's processes are different. I wasn't getting anywhere. So I was like, you know what? What do I do? My delegate called him up. Very nice gentleman, Robert White. I said, hey, this is my situation. Help me. What can I do? Give me some information, or can you help me? He said, I got this.
Yep.
And he got it done. Reach out to your delegate, reach out to whoever you know within the HOA, or find out who's going to be your advocate.
Yeah, and I think that normally the way that it works is if you do get a violation, right? Whether it's from a exterior thing, whether it's
With violations, it's
whatever it is,
It's pretty simple.
They'll give you a deadline, right?
Yep.
Like, hey, this has to be resolved by X amount of time.
They have
If
to be
it's
fair.
not,
Yeah.
Then this is going to be the consequence. And you can go to your delegate. You can go directly to if you go to
The board.
online portal, which most people have now, you can contact the property management company themselves directly. And a lot of times, right, if it is like hey, this needs to be done by X date, there's room to move it, right? It's not a black and white thing. They want you to get it done, but most of the time they want it to be fair because it's going to benefit the community regardless, right? So the two biggest ways that I've seen, if you guys are dealing with any sort of, violations or whatnot, are go through the delegate, the management company themselves, the online portal, and submit whatever you need to do, and that normally will get it resolved.
Yeah. And the whole point of this, guys, the reason that we want to bring it up is because it's not hard, right? So a lot of people think, I'm going to get fined. I'm going to, we talk about them putting a lien on the property, all that kind of stuff. it's not hard. It's not like they're just going to sit there, yell at you and have, you have to do it this time. There's a process that they have to go
Figure
through.
it out.
And yeah, exactly.
They probably hit my car.
They'll figure it out. They'll work with you. It's not just this overarching, you have to get this done now. You can reach out, you can have conversations, you can communicate with the HOA. And guess what? Like we said, if you're part of it, if you become part of it, go to the meetings, you'll know what to expect. You'll know what's going to cause these violations, and you won't have to deal with it.
Yep.
I think the biggest thing is negligence.
Yeah.
If there's negligence, you're going to get in deep waters with the HOA. As long as they'll be fair. Hey, give me some time.
Yep.
They're pretty lenient. Highlands Ranch has the biggest HOA. Last I checked, they have the biggest HOA in the nation here in Colorado. Highlands Ranch has the biggest single-bodied HOA in the nation.
I'd love to check that.
And I knew
That's why we call it the bubble.
Yeah.
I knew the biggest the head person
Nice.
personally because I had an issue with her.
Yeah.
She was very strict, but you know what? She had to manage the biggest HOA in the nation. So very much so. But they need to give you leniency that you are the HOA.
Yep.
Voice your opinion. Hey, I need some time. I need this. I don't have the resources for that.
Yep.
They'll work with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you get a letter because you didn't pull your weeds like I did, and I was like, I'm gonna toss this away, and I didn't pull my weeds, guess what?
He actually tossed it away in the weeds.
I threw them in the weeds and I peed on it. How about that?
Out his front door.
You know what? They're going to find me if I'm going to do something like that. But if I would have contacted her and says, hey, you know what? I haven't had time. I work nights. I'm sleeping during the day. Can you please work with me? Next time it doesn't rain, I'm going to pull my weeds. They would probably have said, you know what? We got you.
Yep.
So we've done a lot of bashing on HOAs. Sorry, some trivia.
Honestly, I thought it was
Well,
going to
no,
be
It was fair. I could have said
Alright,
some,
fair, whatever.
I could have said some harsh shit, but
It's a touchy subject. So
Yeah,
I
it
got
is.
some trivia for you guys.
Okay.
What percentage of homeowners report that they are happy and satisfied with their HOA?
15%.
are happy.
Happy and satisfied.
Oh God.
You know what?
15's high, but I'm going 15%.
I'm going to, as crazy as this may sound, just because, and Bob White, you were the man. Can you get the lady that stopped growing corn in her front yard? I don't know. That's on you.
Stop growing it, or at least have her like
Give it out.
I
No,
love
but
corn on the
that,
cob, man.
you know what? But
Especially
it's
in
not even the
fall.
corn stalks. She has like
many
wind chimes
locusts?
and everything.
Yeah.
And we were walking the neighborhood, my wife and I was like, I'm gonna call the HOA, and I was like,
Caitlin makes this Mexican street corn from scratch. I'd love her to come by our
Yeah,
house
yeah,
and
right.
just give me
no.
some
So
fresh
the
corn
lady
on the
is Hispanic, and she was like, you're Hispanic. You're gonna call the only other Hispanic out in the HOA. I was like, fuck yeah, I am.
cob. See,
See,
se puede.
yes, I am. I'm gonna say the percentage that are happy with their HOA. I'm gonna go a little bit higher. I'm gonna go with about 40%.
So we have the question was, if you guys are just tuning in right now, what percentage of current homeowners report that they are satisfied and happy with their HOA? 40%, 15%,
Yeah.
85%.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was gonna go higher, but
85%
Wow.
you know
of
what?
homeowners
HOAs do
report.
their jobs.
And it's
Yeah.
because, as I think it's psychological, right? And
Yeah.
we talk about this all the time. When it's your issue, it's the biggest issue on the planet. But if I drive through a neighborhood like my neighborhood, right? I have maybe one or two houses in Carriage Hills that I'm like, can you just like fertilize your lawn, maybe, right? But at the end of the day, everything's manicured. Our open spaces are trash, and that's a whole different
Yeah,
conversation.
especially here in Colorado.
And
Yeah.
actually, yeah, you know what? Let's bring
My
this up
open
real quick,
space.
just so you guys are aware. If you buy in a new build community, the HOA works very differently when it comes to common areas because for a certain time period of when that community is getting built, the builder itself is responsible for maintenance, and at some point it rolls over. And in Colorado, because of the lack of water, they have a mandate from the state to allow natural grass to grow longer and higher during the beginning of the community before they cut it, right? So in my neighborhood, Opal Ridge isn't as much because you guys don't have
No,
as many
we've been
open
Opal
spaces.
Ridge has been around since 07,
Right.
so we're
You guys
very
are-
well set. We're
yeah.
we're clean, and
So
most
we-
of the my neighbors are like
Yeah, ours was like
50s
20,
to 80s.
2015, 2016. So what happens is these open spaces, we get our native grass, and it will grow to like where this camera's at.
Yeah.
Right? Then the HOA will come in, or our not our HOA, but the landscape company that they hire will come in, and they will cut like a 5-foot swath from the sidewalk
I've seen that
into it.
when I go to
And
the
it's
Pinnacle.
delineated like all hell. But then after that, it's corn stalks. It was like, this is absolutely ridiculous, blah, blah. But what people don't understand is if you cut that too quickly, the grass requires more water. And there's one thing in Colorado we do not have. It's a lot of water.
We're landlocked.
But
for
new build
for
communities
sure.
are different too, because in the beginning, as those communities are getting built, part of the development agreement and the money that goes towards that is for the builders to maintain those areas and not the HOA. So just something
Nice.
to think about.
Nice. Well, I mean, I think
And that's within the same HOA.
Yes.
We
Yeah,
have the
it's
same
within the same
HOA.
Yeah.
Crystal
So-
Valley.
Different community.
Yep.
Crystal Valley Ranch.
Crystal
So,
Valley Ranch, CBR.
overall-
Crystal Meth Valley Ranch.
overall, I think, like Jamison touched on, a lot of times when you hear HOAs, and especially, if you're looking for a home, a lot of people scoff when they hear HOA, or I don't want to be regulated, I don't want to have this. But overall, it does seem like, with over 80% of people, HOAs are a good thing. Yes, it gets annoying when it pertains to you and things that you are doing with your own home, but overall, as a community, it adds value.
If it's within a condo or townhome community and they're good,
Yes, especially in a
they are
place-
the best
Especially
because
out here.
they take care of everything.
snow removal,
Everything.
lawn care.
If it's a good
concrete.
HOA and you live in,
Yeah.
so I've moved people from homes with no HOAs into condos or townhomes. It's not a step down. It's a lifestyle change.
Absolutely.
I don't want to maintain yards. I don't want to paint the outside of my house. I don't want to worry about snow removal, mowing lawns, none of that. I want to come home. I want to have my life I do inside. I want a little patch of grass that I'll maintain. The
it's
HOA
resort
takes
style
care of the
living.
rest.
Yeah.
It's,
It is.
yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if it's a good HOA, it is definitely resort style. I mean, they'll take care of everything for you.
Absolutely. And one thing so those are kind of all the questions pertaining to HOAs that are frequently asked, but I feel like we wouldn't be doing new home buyers and home buyers in general a due diligence. Go for it.
One thing that we didn't touch on, and it's heavily enforced. Is it heavily enforced by the HOA? 55 and over communities.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's so I was going to mention that before I moved in, but it's funny how as we get older and we want the leisure, we want the comfort.
That's where I got it from.
You're willing, right? You're willing to just go, yeah, do it.
Yeah.
I don't want.
I'm too fucking old for this shit.
Right? Exactly. So it's like I understand. First time home buyers, yes, you want control over it, but be grateful that there's people who are willing to be a part of these associations.
They don't get
that-
paid.
Yeah.
Bob
no, it's
isn't getting
free.
paid.
Yeah, it's
he
volunteer.
went up to bat for me.
Yeah.
And it was 4 or 5 days of my emails and him.
Yeah, they don't get paid. They don't.
No, they
No,
don't get paid.
nothing, right?
It's
And
it's
it's you guys.
It's a
you.
vote. But guess what? Nobody put in their name
No,
into
dude,
the hat.
yeah, it's like
Bob was the
two
only one, and,
votes.
and they were like, "All right, Bob, you have it."
By
and I was
default.
like, "Yeah,
Bob's
by
like,
default,
damn,
Bob
I
was
really
it."
hoping somebody
Well, Bob's the man,
but-
by the way.
But one thing, like I was saying, is the one thing that I feel like we'd be doing a disservice to home buyers is talking about how HOA pertains to your ability to buy a home. And what I mean by that is when you go and you get a mortgage and you get your loan amount, what I want to talk about is a lot of people don't plan for their HOA, right? So, and what I mean by that is when you go and you get a loan amount, you're going to go to the loan officer, you're going to say, hey, this is my credit, whatever. They're going to come back with an amount that you're registered for. And a lot of the time we go, oh, cool, I'm getting this much amount of a loan, and if I buy a home at this price, it's going to be this much a month. And you get locked in on that. So my question, guys, is are HOA fees built into your home loan?
They are, but they're not. So the bank will take in consideration how much you're going to pay monthly or annually or quarterly on your HOA, and they're going to directly tie that into your debt to income ratio. But when you're closed and done, it's a separate payment. It's a
Exactly.
separate payment. You got to you're going to get coupons or pay it online or ACH. It's a separate payment that you're not paying with your mortgage.
Right.
Within your mortgage, you're going to have PATI and I, right? It's a principal, interest, tax, and insurance, and mortgage insurance. That's all grouped in. Your HOA is also grouped in qualifying purposes. So if you're qualified for $500,000, but you have a $500 a month HOA, guess what? That $500 just got dwindled to $400.
Yeah, and the way to look at it is the monthly payment, right? I always tell
Exactly,
people, it's like,
exactly.
well, I want to get qualified up to $500,000. I don't care. I want to know what you're qualified for monthly.
Yes.
Because if you're qualified and your debt to income says you can pay up to $2,900 a month, but we're looking at townhomes and single family homes, and the townhome HOA is $400 and the single family home is $79 a month, that's going to be a very big difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah.
right?
And when it comes, and it goes even deeper, right?
Yeah.
So when you're having to sit down with the consumer, the HOA may pay for heat, water,
Yeah.
sewer, trash,
Internet in some places.
and those are all monthly expenses that you're gonna pay anyway. So it might be beneficial.
Yep.
So don't look at it like, ah, crap, I have an extra $300 a month
Right.
payment. Well, how much would the trash be? $40-$50. How much is your water bill?
Right.
$100. How much is gas and heat? So you got to understand, some of the buildings are tied in and don't have separate meters.
Yep.
So they're just going to divvy it up and say, hey,
Well,
you know what? It's going to be this much.
And I bring it up because especially
So
as
it's in detail. You
Yes,
got to
right.
have that conversation with your agent.
But as we hit a period of time in real estate where interest rates are at the highest that they've been in the last 20 years, it is so important to note that when you get your monthly mortgage payment, your HOA is not involved in that quote. Yes, it is accounted for in your loan
For qualifications.
for qualifications, but that does not mean that when you pay your mortgage, your HOA is covered. And that is something that I really want to drive home, whether it's townhome, condo, single family residence, whatever it is your responsibility to cover your mortgage plus your HOA. And what we're seeing, at least from what I've seen with my clients recently, is these HOAs and these companies that are building these neighborhoods and condo developments, they're taking into account how much responsibility they are assuming for things like water, internet, snow clearance, maintenance, insurance, all
Master
of that.
policy.
So that's why I just wanted to touch on it, because it is so important that as you're gearing up, understanding that when you get your mortgage, that's not the only thing that you're paying for. There are other things that you have to account for monthly that if you just got your mortgage and you were going, yeah, I want to buy this property, you may be able to buy that property on what you projected to pay monthly, but add in all these other things like HOAs, because that could put you into that home poor
And
situation.
it could be good or bad. My insurance went up. My insurance doubled.
Yep.
When you're within a condo community, they will be like, well, we're going to shop you and we're going to keep the HOA the same. I had to shop my own damn insurance because it doubled.
Well, we just talked about
My-
two
my-
episodes ago, right? Two or
My
three
insurance
episodes
went
ago.
from $2,500 to $5,000.
Colorado right now across the board for car insurance and home insurance is one of the most liable states in the country.
Because we got hit by hail for like 3 months straight.
We got wildfires, right?
Yeah,
We got
yeah.
auto theft is becoming
Flood.
huge.
We got flooding.
And you wouldn't think that, right? But that's honestly, guys, that's why we wanted to cover it, because if you are looking for a home right now, we already know it's hard, but take into account different things that you may not think of. And that's why, again, having a good real estate agent that will tell you, hey guys, I know you can afford the mortgage monthly payment on this, but let's take a look at this HOA.
And you know what? I love the podcast for a few reasons. We're giving information to the general public, but this is second nature for me, right? I don't think about this. I just know this
deal
is
with it every day.
Yeah, I do it every day, and it's a refresher that I got to re-educate the client. Look, this is all encompassing.
We have
I calculate it right off the back. I'm already doing it, but I have to re-explain why that works.
We have the largest generation in American history coming into home buying age. Yeah, boomers, you can't hold that title anymore.
You guys are done.
They're coming into home buying age.
you just tell them to
and
die?
unfortunately,
You just tell them to die. They're older, man. Come on.
unfortunately, a lot of the people that are coming in are ignorant to these things, even as small as an HOA. So again, that's why we do this podcast, for you guys to bring information and make sure that you are the most prepared. But I think now is a perfect time to move into our one rock takeaway for today's episode. I think I gave way to Jameson on the last episode. So Oscar, do you want to take it? You want me to take it?
I'll take it.
Okay.
My one rock takeaway for me is if you're coming into the home buying arena, there's more entailed in the day-to-day things that you think. And some of the stuff that you think that's bad is actually for your benefit. And ask your agent why. Ask your agent why is it going to benefit you or why it's not going to benefit you, because you're going to come in hating HOAs, and at the end of the day, you're like, I think I want some HOA. I want that accountability partner because I'm probably not going to myself exert the energy to paint my house, or I need a constant reminder on this. It actually takes that liability off of you. Hey, I got that letter. Oh, shoot. You know what? I better take care of this.
I like it. My one rock takeaway for HOAs overall is going to be, it's up to you. And if you don't put the effort in to know who your representatives are, if you don't put the effort in to go to meetings, if you don't put the effort in to know what those regulations and those rules are, you're going to lose out. You may lose out on the price of your home when you sell. You may lose out by having to pay fees. But at the end of the day, we are living in an information-heavy ecosystem now in society. And guess what, guys? We have a beautiful opportunity that we can email. We can go on an HOA website. We can go to our community website. You could pull up rules and regulations. And guess what? You don't even have to sit down and read through it for 2 hours like Oscar did.
Or the minutes.
You hit Control F on your keyboard, and you can find certain things. So just take the time and take the responsibility on yourself. And if you have a question, if you're worried about something, reach out. Talk to your delegate. Go online. Print out the documents. Search for it if it's a PDF. You are in control of what the outcome of your HOA is.
If you have a knowledgeable agent, he's going to tell you all these things.
Exactly.
And I love the fact that I'm old and jaded in this business, and everything is like second nature. I think I know. I love the fact that you're like, yes, this needs to be brought to light. And I'm like, oh, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Thank
I love
you,
it,
Oscar.
Charlie.
I
I like
appreciate
it.
man.
I like
Thank
it.
you.
You stole mine.
Great minds, man. Great minds.
So rude. Now I got to think of another one on the fly. I think my takeaway is understand that when you're either buying a house, living in a house that you previously bought 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, whatever it is, you are, unless you are on a 170-acre ranch in the middle of fucking nowhere, you are part of a community. And therefore you have a responsibility
Hugo doesn't have an
to
HOA.
help uphold that community's standards and values. And I think that goes for people that have an HOA and people that don't. I am the type of person that if I am on 5 acres without an HOA, if I'm in unincorporated Douglas County, whatever it looks like with no HOA, I'm still going to have pride of ownership because I understand that my value of what I own is only going to go up in conjunction with everybody else around me.
Yep.
My vanity runs my life.
If I can do my part, whether or not neighbors in a non-HOA or non-deed restricted community follow my suit, I can at least go to bed and go, you know what? I did my part. And if it gets unbearable, I'll fucking move. But I will move knowing that my property will sell at a higher price than any of my other neighbors that don't take care of this
I am
shit.
constantly checking my neighborhood.
Yep.
I am that guy. I have painters on the outside of my house and inside of my house right now. I do not want to be that guy, but that's just how I live.
Yep.
And guess what? My HOA is going to be the guy that's going to check me on that.
Yeah.
You
So
know?
just understand you're part of a community,
Yep.
and your job in society is to help uphold that community. And the HOA is kind of the bowling alley bumpers
Yep.
that allow us to stay within that.
Especially as we move into this remote work world, as you don't see as many people, you don't go out. I recently picked up a book my buddy recommended for me, is Bowling Alone, and it basically, the first 2 chapters go over how we as a society have moved away from community based as we've gotten larger, and that's what it looks like on the outside. But when you really dig in and you look at different neighborhoods, different cities, it's actually gone up, because even though we are separate from each other, we all have the same end goal. And that is so important to remember, especially when it comes to an HOA, that we all work together. And if we do, your property value is going to go up. Your quality of life is going to go up because you're going to enjoy your neighbors. You're going to have more opportunities to have fun with your neighbors. And overall, I hate me for it. I think HOAs are a good thing.
No,
I'm in that
and
88%.
you know what?
You and-
Bowling
I'll say you
alone.
and 85% of
Yep.
Bowling alone, it resonates with golfing alone.
Right.
Right? It's the same shit. You're out there scoring the fewest strokes possible, but you're worried about everybody else.
Well, you know
Exactly.
what? To take that metaphor a little one step further, right? When you're golfing against yourself,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
100%.
But you're in a community of people that care
At least 4.
about that golf course because, and nobody
Oh,
questions
yeah.
it, right? Right angle, car path only, fix your divots, fill in the holes in the fairway,
Stop driving on.
drive a certain way.
Yes.
Like all these different things because it upholds that whole deal,
And-
right? And to Charlie's point, it's going up because there's a finite amount of land. So all that's going to happen is people are going to continue to get more densely packed into certain areas where you're not going to have a choice.
You're either going to get Mad Maxed
Right.
or let's control this shit.
Exactly.
Like my neighbors probably don't give 2 shits what I do. They're super cool.
Yep.
Todd, Mark, and Raquel, they're super cool neighbors. I lucked out. They're super nice. I try to be inside my house by 9 because I do have outdoor
Yep.
speakers,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I like to smoke a cigar, have some bourbon outside. There was only one night I got a little carried away. I had my speaker still going. I backed to open space, so I'm sure it echoes out to the rest of. What's the dude that's buying that's selling, not the big builder? Kaufman.
Kaufman, yeah.
There's that Kaufman homes to the left, and then the really nice ones are over here. Whatever. It was 11 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm.
I went up to pee. Mark came out. I was like, "Hey, Oscar, can you just turn it down just a little bit? You can still enjoy yourself. Just turn it down." And I was like, "Oh yeah, sure." I yelled down to my wife. I was like, "Hey, turn it down." I went back in. I peed. I was like, "You know what? It's my house. God damn it. I need it." And my wife was like, "Hey, it's 11 o'clock at night. Chill the hell out." I was like, "Oh shit, sorry." I do have pride of ownership.
Yep.
I want my house to be nice. I want to be if I could be the example of the community, I will.
Mm-hmm.
I hold in regards my house because what I own only is going to show you who I am.
Exactly.
Yep.
You know, I'm going to care for you as a person. Look at my house.
It's
I
a
care for
reflection
that.
of who you are.
It's a reflection of who you
Absolutely.
are. And I think an HOA is, and this was an aha moment for me. The HOA is your accountability
Yep, I
partner.
love that.
If
Yeah, I do.
if ran well.
Yes,
I like it.
absolutely. But again, it's only ran well if you participate.
Yep.
Yes. Participate in
Yep.
your HOA.
And I'll tell you what, it's time to move into the bourbon review. And
Hey, hold on. It's been a couple weeks, so why don't you give the people a refresher on how this works?
Yes. So for the bourbon review, guys, we rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, and
1 to 10
it
what?
is a rock rating.
Yep.
So 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest, because with a good bourbon, the less rocks you have to put in it, the better the bourbon is, right?
Like it neat.
And I will tell you what.
I tell you
I
what.
tell you what.
There's some South Carolina. I tell you what.
I think there has to be a disclaimer. Charlie, in no way, shape, or form, has been threatened
No.
by the cartel to give this bourbon a specific rating.
No, but I think that it's common for us, especially when we get 100 proof, to relate it to Smoke Wagon.
Yeah.
And fun fact, I talked to them about Smoke Wagon, and they were like, dude, what they've done from a small distillery out of Las Vegas, what they've been able to do is phenomenal. And I think
agree.
that this is a great example of a bourbon that, and we always talk about for people who, don't drink bourbon often, I would recommend this bottle wholeheartedly.
I want to taste their flavored batches.
Yeah.
I really do.
Absolutely.
And I'm not a big fan of
Yeah, I think
flavored
this is
anything.
this and Smoke Wagon, to me, two completely different bourbons.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. This one, for
To,
me.
to the point of when you say, like, we like to compare them.
Yeah.
Go. We
But
were
I don't think you can. I
we
think
were
it's
talking
on-
about Michter's.
Yeah.
That's what I was drinking this week. Michter's is Michter's. It's a bourbon that tastes like fucking bourbon.
Yeah.
It's a bourbon drinker.
Yes.
And it is what it is. And this is like
Right? This is
in a
something-
good way it's out there.
Yeah, this is something for me where I would feel comfortable bringing this to anybody's house. Bring this with a cigar. The sweetness, the sweetness note, and we talk about this all the time. I have a sweeter palate. For me, this bourbon right here is I think exactly what it is. The Whiskey Cartel, the Executive, a gentleman's bourbon. You can have this with a cigar. It will add to the sweetness of any wrap. I genuinely enjoy the complexity that comes with it. A lot of the time with 100 proof, if it's sweeter, you get hit with that sweetness in the front end.
Very
and then
one-dimensional, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It doesn't linger, right? This one, you can make a Manhattan from it. You can make an
Or
old-fashioned
artificial
from it.
flavoring. I
Yeah.
hate that.
Like,
I don't know.
yeah,
Like,
right? And this one, for me, from the story behind it, the example that it's set, I'm gonna give this one a 3.5.
A what?
A 3.5. I love the complexity, the vanilla, the caramel, the spice forward for me. The fact that the spice almost totally covers the burn is an amazing example of flavor, because you're not getting the burn when you go to smell it. You're not getting that retch back when you take a sip. It goes from spice to sweetness with the flavor in the caramel, and then that heat stays on your tongue, but you also get the complexity, the sweetness. I'm getting a little bit of apricots, a little bit more of that sweeter fruit on the back end that's sitting there. But I think that 3.5 for me. This will lend itself well to anything you want to do with it.
If you don't mind, I need to take some notes off of that because I have a completely different palate than you. I'm more of a savory guy.
Yep.
I like peppery, hot stuff, and I am not a fan of sweet. But this sweet is good. This sweet maintains the same. After I'm done drinking, I have notes of like cake.
Yeah.
Notes of like apple pie crust. It's a good sweet. It's not overpowering, artificial, in your face. I'm done drinking. You know, what's the decongestion wine that you drink? You
Yep.
know, after your meal. It's not that. It's sweeter. It is what it is, but it has its own. It holds its own ground amongst the. It's not straight bourbon in your face, Chattanooga chew, blah blah blah. It's different. It's sweet. It hits a palate sweet, at least for me. Goes down sweet. For it being 100 proof, I'm impressed that it doesn't burn as much, and the lingering sweet isn't artificial. It evolves into something like cake batter for me, and I'm okay with that. I like it. It's different. If we compare it to something that Smoke Wagon has done, it holds its own realm of what they're doing, and I can appreciate that. It drinks well. I could finish the rest of the bottle. It's not my go-to as far as I'm going to go drink bourbon and have a cigar, but if you bring that to my house, I'm like, hell yeah. I'm going to tell you what cigar I'm going to pick, and I'm going to enjoy the hell out of that bottle. I genuinely like it. It's different from my go-to or for what my palate does, but I'm grateful for what they're doing.
Hell yeah.
And it's 100 proof, and I think they're doing a great job. It's 5 years. I could respect the 5 years that they waited for this. I'm going to give it a solid 3.
Hell yeah.
I'm going to completely upend our rating system.
Okay.
I love it. Like, I think it's great. I agree with both of what you guys said. I also have a kind of a sweetness forward palate when it comes to bourbon. That's probably why I like Buffalo Trace so much.
Yep.
But when I drink, uncut and filtered from Smoke Wagon, I really, really enjoy the harsh complexity of that, right? And that's why I think this and Smoke Wagon are on completely different.
It's like
sides of the
eating a
spectrum.
good dessert
You know what I mean?
and eating a good
Yeah.
entree.
Exactly.
Right? You could
Exactly.
appreciate
I
both.
enjoy a really, really good cheesecake, but I also enjoy a A5 Wagyu filet.
Peppery
Right.
steak.
Totally different.
Yes.
I would enjoy them the same.
Yep.
You give those to me at lunchtime. Depends on my mood. I'll eat both. Here's my contention.
Yeah.
Our rock rating is based on the amount of rocks I would put in this bourbon.
That's the hard part for me. I know.
I think I would rather drink this neat
Yes.
than with a cube, only because it flirts on. It's already easy to drink. I actually think a rock as it melts
Would hurt this.
Yes.
Yes. And that's why
But
it's
that
Or
would
will
also
it?
mean that I would give it a 0,
Right.
which would be the highest rated
Or
bourbon that we've
will
ever
it?
done.
Maybe
You know
we
what I
put a
mean?
rock in there and you're like, holy crap.
I don't know. I think it's such, to me, for a 100 proof,
Yes.
it is a very delicate bourbon.
Yes.
You know
Like
what?
the best way I could describe
If we do this again, drink it throughout,
yeah, and then
drop some drops in
yeah.
there,
Yeah.
and let it sit.
Yeah.
And
I
at
just-
the end,
I don't-
sip and sip,
I
and then see
don't
what it does.
know if the burn would hold up once it's watered down. And I
Yes.
think the burn is what gives it that
Balance.
balance.
Yep.
Yes. So it's tough for me because I'm like, well, really, if we're doing a rock rating, like 0.
Yeah.
I drink this neat all day long. But I'm
Yep.
like, well, wait a second. That's not how this works.
in conjunction.
I think you brought a good point. I think the balance is there. Don't fuck with it.
Yeah.
Because it might
Yes.
throw it off.
Which I like. Like, I
Yeah.
like the fact that
It balances itself
they
out.
distilled this bourbon, I think, and I haven't talked to them, you have, knowing that, like, you know what? We want to drink this neat. And we don't want to put ice in it.
All right. So all right, I'm going to let you give your number first.
Well, okay, here's my second question. What's the cost on this thing?
So the cost is ranging anywhere between 45 and 55.
Okay.
That's
So
good.
yeah, pretty relative. What do you
I
think?
don't know that I would. I don't know that I could or would make an old fashioned with this.
I don't
Okay.
think I would.
The flavors and the sweetness would fuck it up.
You know what I would do? If I did, I'd do a smoked old fashioned.
Yes.
Whiskey sour.
I would do a smoked old fashioned. I wouldn't do a regular.
Smoked old
I
fashioned would
think
be great
smoke
with
would
this.
still
It
allow
cut
it to keep some of that character.
Something with just bitters and
Yeah.
something
I think,
else.
to
Manhattan.
Charlie's point, I
Or
think-
no.
Yeah.
What's not a mint julep. There's another big bourbon thing that it would hold well with.
Like Manhattan versus an old
Yeah,
fashioned.
a Manhattan for this.
Yeah,
one.
absolutely, Manhattan.
Man, dude, it reminds me of Dexter,
Yes.
and I think I gave Dexter like a 2.5. I think Dexter has a little bit more complexity, so I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go in between you guys. I'm gonna go 325.
Okay, I like it. That's perfect.
I think I'm gonna go
and
325.
here's the fun part,
It's good
guys.
bourbon. It's
So
good
like I
bourbon.
said, I met with these guys, right? We met out at the Famous here in Castle Rock. It's a new steakhouse out here. They carry them, so if you do live in Colorado or Castle Rock, head down there. You can get their flavored bourbons. You can get the executive like we have here.
Question: Do
Yeah.
they carry them in all the Famous or just the one in Castle Rock?
So as of right now, I only know of the one in Castle Rock. But to your point, the first time I had this with them, I had a rock. I had a clear rock
Yeah.
sitting in the glass, and I looked at them and I was like, guys, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm gonna do the next one neat.
See,
Yeah.
And yeah,
I'm not crazy.
yeah, no, not at all. And I love that you said that. And
Yeah.
and it honestly, I think it gives me a little bit of credibility when it comes to the bourbon drinking, right? But that's exactly what I said, and that is what they told me is we made this to be enjoyable, to be sipped, and I'm excited to see what they do as they start to expand.
I think
So-
that's a great model
Yeah.
as far as bourbon.
I agree.
Bourbon's made to however you want to drink it.
Yep,
Nope. That's good. I'm glad. I had no knowledge of this conversation previously.
that's why I dropped
Neither
it.
do I.
baby.
But yeah, so I agree. I think neat is the way to go. That's why it's tough on the rating. But a 325, I still think Dexter's superior. Still,
Well, Dexter was top.
I still
top
haven't
12
had
Dexter.
spirits in the
I
world.
understood. It's 100 proof.
Yep.
It has a flavor and sweet forward palate.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have a ton of bite.
Yep.
We both opened it and we're like, "What the fuck is this?" Right? So it's very similar. I just think that it's I don't even know how to like. It's just slightly more complex.
Yes.
To the point where I could sip it neat, or I could put it on the rocks.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the purpose, right? If I sip something neat and it has a certain flavor profile, my expectation is that I put a rock in it, it opens it up to even more.
Yes.
This, I actually think it might take it away.
Yeah.
So that's why it's.
I can
I agree.
I can agree.
I
with
agree.
that. Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. I know we were away for 2 weeks, but it's been so fun to come back with you and be here as always.
Hell yeah.
And remember, you can catch us on YouTube every Monday to Wednesday for our video. We drop our audio every Friday. We are the boy band, right? Like we said, we drop our vocals every Friday.
Aren't we the opening act for NSYNC's reunion tour?
Damn right. Damn right. You can catch us on YouTube. Living in Colorado, the Mile High Perspective. Remember, guys,
Or the
follow.
Taylor Swift Kelsey.
Yeah, the new one. Like, follow, and share. We're here for you guys. Recommend more bourbon. Recommend us places to go on the channel. We got some more community spotlights dropping for you guys.
Lone Tree coming at you.
And as always, you can get in contact with us. Send us an email at resotr@themilehighperspective.com or give us a phone call.
303-578-0263. And then obviously, since we're talking about Taylor Swift, we're on the socials.
That's right.
So
That's right.
Oscar, where are you at?
OscarTheRealtor.com, across the board.
Changed it. That Lifting Agent, Instagram, and TikTok.
And the Colorado real estate guy, pretty much everywhere. Jameson Amherst on Facebook.
Guys, we'll catch you next week. Thank you for being with us
Cheers.
again.
Cheers.
Cheers.